SB level. South basement. Brenda's claustrophobia gripped her more tightly with every hastening step of their descent. As they moved deeper into the building's original foundation, the air became heavy, and the ventilation seemed non-existent. The walls down here were all uneven and looked like they were made from ancient stones. Chief Mock typed on her phone as they walked. Brenda sensed a suspicion in her guarded manner, but the feeling was quickly becoming reciprocal. Mock still hadn't told her how she knew Brenda was here tonight. An issue of national security? She had a hard time understanding any relation between ancient mythical treasure and national security. Then again, she had a hard time understanding much of anything about this situation. Glenn Moody entrusted me with a talisman, and a deluded lunatic tricked me into bringing it to the GICC and possibly wants me to use it to find some treasure that might or might not be in a room called SBB-14. Not exactly a clear picture. As they pressed on, Brenda tried to shake from her mind the horrible image of Glenn's severed hand, transformed into the hand of the mysteries. The gruesome picture was accompanied by Glenn's voice. The ancient secrets, Brenda, have spawned many myths, but that does not mean they themselves are fiction. Despite a passion for studying mystical symbols and history, Brenda had always struggled intellectually with the idea of the ancient treasures and their potent promise of apotheosis. Admittedly, the historical record contained indisputable evidence that secret wisdom had been passed down through the ages, apparently having come out of the mystery schools in early Egypt. This knowledge moved underground, resurfacing in Renaissance Europe, where, according to most accounts, it was entrusted to an elite group of scientists within the walls of Europe's premier scholarly thinkers. This concealed group quickly became the world's most enlightened minds, such as Isaac Newton, Robert Boyle, and even Benjamin Franklin, Einstein, and Celsius. These great minds had all made quantum leaps in human understanding, advances that, according to some, were the result of their exposure to ancient wisdom hidden within. Brenda doubted this was true, although there had certainly been an unusual amount of mystical work taking place. The discovery of Isaac Newton's secret papers in 1936 stunned the world by revealing Newton's all-consuming passion for the study of ancient alchemy and mystical wisdom. Newton's private papers included a handwritten letter to Robert Boyle in which he exhorted Boyle to keep high silence regarding the mystical knowledge they had learned. "It cannot be communicated," Newton wrote, "without immense damage to the world." The meaning of this strange warning was still being debated to this day.
Ms. Teague,
Mock said suddenly, glancing up from her phone.
despite your insistence of ignorance in this matter, perhaps you could shed light on the meaning of Glenn Moody's ring.
I can try,
Brenda said, refocusing. Mock produced the specimen bag and handed it to Brenda.
Tell me about the symbols on his ring.
Brenda examined the familiar ring as they moved through the deserted passageway.
The ring bears the family seal with the number 88 emblazoned on its shield, the traditional symbol of consuming fire and new order in Gnosticism. The Gnostic ankh is a beloved symbol commonly used by the Egyptian people representing life. The Gnostic cross has 8 arms, and scholars believe it first appeared in Egypt, and that it represents the creation of the universe through the process of divine emanation. Finally, the Gnostic serpent wheel, which represents the dualistic concept of shedding the old and replacing it with new.
So, you were aware that Glenn Moody was a member of this elite circle of Gnostics?
Of course. Membership itself is hardly a secret. It is part of his family lineage.
And he is their highest-ranking official?
As far as I know.
Did you notice the engraving on the ring's band? It bears the word Sophia.
Brenda nodded.
It's a common theme in Gnostic lore. Sophia means wisdom. Sophia is depicted as female. The basic idea is comparable to the Christian Shekinah, otherwise known as the Holy Spirit.
Glenn Moody often made playful allusions to the existence of a precious Gnostic secret, but Brenda always assumed it was just a mischievous attempt to coax her into joining. Unfortunately, tonight's events had been anything but playful, and there had been nothing mischievous about the seriousness with which Glenn had urged Brenda to protect the sealed package in her day bag those several years ago.
Another question.
Mock said as they hastened deeper into the labyrinth.
My staff said that while cross-checking the concepts of 88 and Treasure of Jean Lafitte, they turned up literally hundreds of references to a pyramid?
That's not surprising either.
Brenda said as they continued winding through ever-narrowing corridors.
The pyramid builders of Egypt are the forerunners of modern pyramid-shaped construction. Their architecture has become very common in Gnostic symbolism as well as many other cultures.
Symbolizing what, exactly?
The pyramid essentially represents enlightenment. It's an architectural symbol emblematic of ancient man's ability to break free from his earthly plane and ascend upward toward heaven, toward the golden sun, and ultimately, toward the supreme source of illumination.
Mock waited a moment.
And nothing else?
Nothing else? Brenda thought. She was stunned. She had just described one of history's most elegant symbols. The structure through which man elevated himself into the realm of the gods.
According to my research,
Mock continued.
It sounds like there is a much more relevant connection tonight. They tell me there exists a popular legend about the pyramids here in Galveston. One pyramid allegedly relates specifically to the Gnostics and the ancient treasure.
Brenda now realized what she was referring to, and she tried to dispel the notion before they wasted any more time. There are 3 pyramids at Moody Gardens in Galveston. The number 3 was considered the perfect number, the number of harmony, wisdom and understanding.
I am familiar with the legend, Chief, but it's pure fantasy.
Why didn't you mention it earlier?
Brenda shrugged.
Because it has no basis in fact. Like I said, it's a myth. One of many associated with the Gnostics.
And yet this particular myth relates directly to the secret treasures?
Sure, as do plenty of others. The secret treasures are the foundation for countless legends that have survived in history. Stories about powerful wisdom protected by secret guardians like the Templars, the Rosicrucians, the Illuminati, and others. The list goes on and on. They are all based on the sacred treasure, and the pyramid is just one example.
I see,
said Mock.
And what does this legend actually say?
Brenda considered it for a few steps. She ducked under a low part of the ancient ceiling and then replied.
Well, I'm no specialist in conspiracy theories, but I am educated in mythology, and most accounts go something like this. Mankind's most sacred treasure has to be carefully protected. The enlightened sages who understood the true power of this wisdom learned to fear its awesome potential. So in order to protect the sacred treasure, and mankind in the process, the early practitioners formed secret fraternities. Many believe we can look back and see the historical remnants of those who mastered the secrets in the stories of sorcerers, magicians, and healers.
And the Gnostic pyramid. How does that fit in?
Well,
Brenda said, striding faster now to try to keep pace.
This is where history and myth begin to merge. According to some accounts, by the 16th century in Europe, almost all of these secret groups had become extinct. Most of them were exterminated by a growing tide of religious persecution. Understandably, the Gnostics feared that if their own brotherhood one day died off like its predecessors, the secret treasure would be lost for all time.
And the pyramid.
Mock again pressed. Brenda was getting to it.
The legend of the secret treasure states that the Gnostics, in order to fulfill their responsibility of protecting this great wisdom for future generations, decided to hide it in a great fortress.
Brenda tried to gather her recollections of the story.
Again, I stress this is all myth, but allegedly the Gnostics transported their secret wisdom from the old world to the new world. Here in America, they hoped they would remain free from religious tyranny. And here they built an impenetrable fortress, a pyramid, designed to protect the secret treasure until the time that all of mankind was ready to handle the awesome power that this wisdom could bestow. According to the myth, the Gnostics crowned their great pyramid with a shining capstone as a symbol of the precious treasure within, the ancient wisdom capable of empowering mankind to his full human potential. Apotheosis.
Quite a story.
Mock said.
Yes. The Gnostics have fallen victim to all kinds of crazy legends, just like so many others.
Obviously, you don't believe such a pyramid exists.
Of course not.
Brenda replied.
There's no evidence whatsoever to suggest that the 3 pyramids here in Galveston or anywhere else hold any secret treasure. They're just part of a tourist attraction.
Moody Gardens has lush tropical gardens, extensive wildlife exhibits, and numerous other attractions that hardly sound like hidden treasure. This legend, however, never explained exactly what was supposed to be inside the pyramid, whether it was ancient texts, occult writings, scientific revelations, or something far more mysterious. However, the legend did say that the precious information inside was ingeniously encoded and understandable only to the most enlightened souls.
Anyway,
Brenda continued.
This story falls into a category we symbologists call an archetypal hybrid, which is a blend of other classic legends, borrowing so many elements from popular mythology that it could only be a fictional construct and not historical fact.
Mock scratched her head as they turned a corner and followed Davison down a short flight of stairs.
Tell me this. If I'm not mistaken, pyramids were once considered mystical portals through which the deceased pharaohs could ascend to the gods, were they not?
True.
Mock stopped short and caught Brenda's arm, glaring into her eyes with an expression somewhere between surprise and disbelief.
You're saying Glenn Moody's captor told you to find a hidden treasure, and it didn't occur to you that he was talking about the pyramids from this legend?
By any name, the mythical pyramid is a fairy tale. It's purely fantasy.
Mock stepped closer to her now, and Brenda could smell her cigarette breath.
I understand your position on that, but for the sake of my investigation, the parallel is hard to ignore. A pyramid leading to secret knowledge. To my ear, this sounds a lot like what Glenn Moody's captor claims you alone can unlock.
Well, I can hardly believe.
What you believe is not the point. No matter what you believe, you must concede that this man might himself believe that the pyramid is real.
The man's a lunatic. He may well believe that SBB-14 is the entrance to a giant underground pyramid that contains all the lost wisdom of the ancients.
Mock stood perfectly still, her eyes seething.
The crisis I am facing tonight is not a fairy tale. It is quite real, I assure you.
A cold silence hung between them.
Ma'am?
Davison finally said, gesturing to another secure door roughly 10 feet away.
We're almost there, if you'd like to continue.
Mock finally broke eye contact with Brenda, motioning for Davison to move on. They followed through the secure doorway, which deposited them in a narrow passage. Brenda looked left and then right. You've got to be kidding. They were standing in the longest hallway she had ever seen.